Hey everybody, it's News from Heaven, and today we're going to be talking about how heaven connects to your body, which is a weird thing to talk about, but it's also the coolest thing, I feel like, maybe in all of the Swedenborg experience, which to me is like maybe one of the coolest spirituality type things that you can get, and because it makes nothing extraneous. If there is like God and heaven and spiritual stuff, and how does that tie in with this? Why is there such a complex world that we inhabit here? You can delve into the study of the human body and be amazed by how complex it is. We all know owning this thing. This is sort of what gives us a common experience, is having to deal with the body and mess around. So how do those two connect? And the answer is cooler than fiction. All right, so this is going to be your chance to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Download Heaven and Hell. We're going to go to number 96 and 97 today, and hopefully what we can do through learning the truth is help, by learning about the connection with the body, fix the connection with the mind. Because what I think is supposed to happen is we are supposed to be plugged in to truth. Swedenborg talks about that, like animals have instinct, that they know the places of the reality they need to know to function. We are supposed to have that. We are supposed to have this connection we're supposed to be wired into this higher truth about what life is, why we're here, God, the future, hope, not the future like what's going to happen, but what's the big picture, where is this all headed, and that is supposed to lift us up and keep us in a good state of mind. But since we don't have that, we're prone to being vulnerable to being assaulted by all kinds of evils and falsities that try to convince us that life is something terrifying and negative. But instead, if we can learn about the truth, it can pump us up. And I think here we're going to be learning about all of the above. Part of this is the picturing, okay, where do we end up and what can we hope to participate in, and how are we connected to it right now? That's a lot of features for this one. Okay, we're starting at 96. This first sentence here is a problem in terms of the depth, the content per word and giant idea per word. We're going to get through this one just fine, no problem. The correspondence of heaven's two kingdoms with the heart and lungs is the general correspondence of heaven with the human being. Okay, so you've got in you, you've got a heart. Did you know it? You've got a heart. And then there's lungs, right? You all know that song. That's not a real song. So there it is. You've got this thing in the center of your chest. This is what we pound when we want to make a point. This is the core of us. And Swedenborg is saying, way up high here, let's say there's different levels of heaven. That's the dividing line. You maybe got your celestial here, or your spiritual here, maybe there, or heavenly and spiritual. Swedenborg is saying that this corresponds with this, whatever that means. And this heaven corresponds with your heart. That there is, in this sentence, we get to know that there's two kingdoms in heaven, and we've talked about those in other areas. It really is the alignment of the heart and mind. If you are following what's true for the sake of what's good, then that's spiritual. If you're following what's good and from that springs what's true, then that's heavenly, heart-led, mind-led. You need both of them, just like you need the heart and the lungs. Then that is how heaven connects to us, and that heaven does connect to us, right? So there you go. You've already got a reason to break out your highlighters here, and that's just the intro to this. So we've got this connection, and not just you can hear, oh, you're connected. You're connected with heaven or something, but this part of your anatomy is connected with heaven. So we're already in weird correspondence territory, and that's the general correspondence. So that's, you can know that it's connected like that, but it's actually not. It goes way beyond that somehow as well. The less general correspondence, though, is with specific members, organs, and viscera. And we need to note what this is like as well. Because the rest of your body is probably saying, what's up? Heart and lungs? That's everything? You're the connectors? What am I? What is it? Liver's like, what am I? Chopped liver? There's this whole head here. We got the hands, not to mention all these other internal organs here. If you want to copy this and try to publish an anatomy textbook, you're definitely welcome to, because this is pretty good. There's all this other stuff here. Is it connected to heaven? Yes. It's not that just because there's this primary connection here, there isn't something throughout everything else. And we need to note what this is like as well. And this gets into how can human beings all get along and get along in a way that it's better that there's more of us than not. 'Cause isn't there a part of us that feels like if it was just me and God, that would be a lot simpler. I wouldn't have to worry about competing with anyone. Nobody would bother me or hurt me or something like that. Or boil it down to just me and a few of my friends, and then we're in good shape. Why so many people? And how can we possibly all not just not fight each other, but actually why was it better that there's this many people for every individual experience than it would be if there wasn't? This gets into it, and it's the human body model that frees us from this sort of how does this work dilemma. People who are in the head, in the universal human that is heaven, are supremely involved in everything good. So this is getting into what might I be if we're going to once again draw a person. Oh, it's just margins were made for snowmen drawings, that's for sure. This is what are you? Which role do you play? Just like everything in the body has a purpose. What kinds of people help out the functions of what kinds of areas? People who are in the head in the universal human, that is heaven, are supremely involved in everything good. Because the head is really like where everything comes together. In fact, they're in love, peace, innocence, wisdom, intelligence, and therefore delight and happiness. Okay, that's fine. Everything you said so far is kind of strange and spiritually and out there. That was nothing. Watch this sentence. These flow into the head so I'm thinking he's talking about, these flow into the head and into the components of the head in us. This, in us, and correspond to them. So somehow, your head right now is in some kind of relationship with these sorts of people in heaven. Right now. And this is something that would pop up. Swedenborg all the time would say, I was going to see some spirits. Some spirits showed up and they appeared, by the head, or this negative spirit tried to get in through my plate or exhibit it or put or something. Who cares? The point is, there are these really weird body-related interactions that Swedenborg talks about. And this is because we are like the table of contents for the human race that you have mapped onto you, like all the possible, something that corresponds with every possible mindset. In this way, we are really a miniature version of the whole human race. And we, through this receiver, through this antenna, whichever one it is, or both, we also are in constant communication, that it really is common property. The human form is common property. You ever think about why it's so disturbing when something gets injured? You're thinking about the pain that the person is going through, but also this is something we all share. And on a bigger picture, it's the network of the human race. So to see an injury or something, it's like, that's something good and true being hurt, and why you feel like, oh, that's degrading, don't do that. Why do people feel like ownership over what we should and shouldn't do? Is it because there's some kind of common property that we've all got here? So these angels are flowing into the head. So somehow there's heaven up here and the state of the people in heaven. And, really, you could draw heaven, of course, as its own little person here. So let's say, what is that? The head people in heaven, their strength affects, the state of our own heads. There is infinite possibility here. He doesn't go into a lot of details, but I love the idea of right now we're somehow connected. That you can be getting strength from heaven there. People who are in the chest of the universal human that is heaven are involved in the qualities of thoughtfulness and faith, and also flow into our chests and correspond to them. So we're starting to get some distinction, because this just kind of seemed like everyone who does everything that's good, and everything angelic, that's the head. But here, thoughtfulness and faith. So thoughtfulness I think is sometimes rendered charity. This is where we're trying to do nice things for nice people. Faith being the affection for the true things we believe. That is in the chest and correspond to it. However, people who are in the groin, body talk, of the universal human or heaven are in the organs dedicated to reproduction, are in marriage love. And sometimes Swedenborg says you're the deepest in heaven when you're in marriage love. Now, in marriage love can mean two things in Swedenborg. He can be referring to a pairing, husband and wife, but he also talks about you can have inside yourself married love. That it can be, why am I even drawing this person? I'm trying to show there can be love and wisdom in your mind, and those things marrying together are also marriage love. And he sort of seems to say that it's this marriage love that kind of leads to that one. Either way, that corresponds to the reproduction and the organs we're equipped with for it. So even that is a part of heaven. He talks about universal human having a correspondence with everything in both kinds of bodies. People who are in the feet, the feet are like, okay, you're talking about all this cool stuff. Where are we? People who are in the feet are in the outermost heaven. Yeah, so sorry, you're in the outermost heaven. But you think about it, it all fits in with correspondences because the feet are what touches what's the lowest, and you'll walk on something that you wouldn't put on your hands or mouth or something. This is sort of a barrier. Feet get rough. You think about the soles of your shoes when we're wearing shoes. Those are a big barrier that are essential. Try doing anything without your feet. I mean, it's going to be, you're going to have much harder time getting things done, right? But you can. I mean, some people who have lost legs or feet can still go and do life. You can do it, but the feet are this important means of locomotion. So this is why there's this external part. There's certain things that are more vital in us. You can't survive if you don't have a heart or lungs. Feet you could, but feet can do good things. People who are in the arms and hands, that's it. I thought we were going to hear a little bit more about the feet, which is called natural spiritual good, outermost in heaven. So you're still in heaven, you're still doing great things, but we could get into what this sort of terminology is another time. People who are in the arms and hands are in the power of what is true because of what is good. Now you might think this is all sort of a hierarchy moving downward, but even though I was just saying, okay, the feet may be dispensable, everything is equally valuable because they all do different things. And if you think about, you might think the head, that's got these super special angels in it. They're going to be the most important ones. But the arms are much more powerful than the head. Like you try to, if you got to pick up a cinder block with your head, it's going to be an issue, but you can do that with your arms. So there is actually more of a certain kind of power in these arms. People who are in the eyes are in understanding. And aren't there people who love to pursue knowledge? And in Swedenborg's case, he was saying particularly people who want to apply that to something good rather than just rack up statistics of how much stuff you know. People who are in the ears are in attentiveness and obedience. Is obedience a positive quality? Well, it depends. I mean, if you're getting good information, if you're getting good orders, then it's for any organism to work, there's got to be some kind of obedience. If the arms, even though they have this power, wouldn't listen to what the head is saying, we've got some problem. People who are in the nostrils, even the nostrils, are in perception. People in the mouth and tongue in conversing from discernment and perception. And there it's like, okay, so you're even in... Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say in the mouth and tongue? We've done a lot of shows about this, but if this is your first one, how can I do this quickly? Well, man, it's not like heaven is actually shaped like a person. It's not like there's, look way up there, look at those apartments up on the hill, that's the head. But there are communities which all perform these different functions. Just like, and the functions are analogous, actually perfectly analogous to everything that goes on in your body. Like you're seeing here, just like our eyes, the function of them is I need to understand how close is this microphone, or else I'm going to bunk. That is a particular use that they have. So there are people who are able to see how close are we, and how close are we to whatever obstacle the hole is. And you see this now. People are trying to figure out economics or environmental concerns to see, like, are we as the human race running into big problems? That's different than actually then. Those people aren't the same people that can put it into practice to change the things we need to change to avoid some kind of calamity. So that goes on in heaven, but in an even more interconnected way, so that everything really is functioning well together. And from that, you get this stuff that's like the body and happens to correspond to everything the body does, because the body is this little picture of what heaven is, okay? So the mouth and tongue from conversing from discernment and perception. I just had this little moment of like, people are just like, what is he talking about? Conversing from discernment and perception. So it's sort of like you like to talk, so you're in the tongue. That it gets really literal, but from discernment and perception. This is how everybody within the heavenly mindset. So it's not just it's not just if you think, oh, I like to gossip a lot or something. That's not the function. Everything is pulling towards the function, which is the health of the whole body, whichever one of these awesome things you want to choose. That's just like what the body does here. Everything is moving towards the single goal, which Swedenborg at other places calls the common good, which I really like. Hey, kidneys, don't leave out the kidneys. People who are in the kidneys are in truth that probes and discriminates and purifies. You think about the difference of the kidneys kind of truth to the power truth. I could think like engineering on Earth is analogous to you can do these amazing things with that. It's just kind of like an arm, but then purify and discriminate is sort of like legal stuff. Like what's wrong and right, what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So you have these things that have their rudiments here on Earth, but in heaven they would be, up a level and perfected and doing some things we can't understand or describe here. But you can understand the basics of it because you know it, because you're walking around with it. That's part of the reason for correspondences. It's a language that we can understand and that heaven can understand, which is really God's words or God's truth coming down into forms that we can kind of get. It's like metaphor, layers of metaphor on metaphor, which allow us to have a conversation even though we're at such different levels of intelligence and wisdom and all that stuff. So how better for us to develop the common language than to walk around inside a dictionary of it, right? I mean, that's cool. People in the liver, pancreas, and spleen are in various aspects of purification of what is good and true, because it's not just the kidneys. There's this whole series here, so there's all these different ways, right down to the cellular level, all these different tasks that we could have. They flow into the like parts of the human being and correspond to them. The inflow of heaven is into the functions and uses of these members. Interesting. Not just necessarily, because a kidney is a little kidney bean-shaped thing, it's what the kidney's doing. That actually, the function of something has a metaphysical quality to it that can be supplied with some kind of sustenance from heaven. Okay. Since uses originate in the spiritual world, they take form by means of elements characteristic of the natural world and thus make themselves known in their effects. This is the origin of that correspondence. Somebody could pick that apart for you really well. I mean, there's something in there. I'll try my best, but functions and uses originate in the spiritual world. So somehow, if you think about purification, apart from any object that's doing it, just think about purification. Something needs something taken out of it in order to be in some positive, healthy state. The function of purification is in the spiritual world. And it somehow gets down and interacts with the physical world to bring about systems that can lead to purification, right? So these are the elements characteristic of the natural world. That may not seem that profound to you. To me, it's at least interesting enough to say on the internet. This is why the same members, organs, and viscera in the Word mean similar things. So the Bible is full of imagery about the human body. This is another wrinkle or layer as to why. Everything there actually has meaning according to its correspondence. The head there means intelligence and wisdom. This is going to be listed a lot like what we saw before. The chest, thoughtfulness. The groin, marriage, love. The arms and hands, the power of truth. The feet, what is natural. The eyes, discernment. The nostrils, perception. The ears, obedience. The kidneys, the probing of truth, and so on. This is also, and here's the ringer. And I've made this point in other things, but hopefully this is the first time you're hearing it. So it's going to blow you away because you're going to be saying, this is all so weird. Well, you're going to say that anyway. This is all weird, and really, it's arbitrary. You know what it is, Curtis? It's arbitrary. You're just saying that Swedenborg says that there's this giant arrangement. How can you ever test something like that? Where do you see any indication that that's true? Well, I can't test it, but indication that it's the case, where you might see a reality as gargantuan as this leaking through into how our minds and lives are. Okay, well, how about this? This is also why people commonly say that someone has a good head when they're talking about someone intelligent and wise, while they talk about a truly thoughtful person as a bosom friend, a particularly perceptive individual as having a keen nose, a discriminating one as sharp-sighted, someone in power as having a long arm, the long arm of the law, someone who acts intentionally from love as acting from the heart. These and many other expressions in human language come from correspondence. The expressions actually originate in the spiritual world, though people are unaware of it. We already talk like this. When earlier, I was saying one of those. I was saying, like, we're going to have to, I forget, I was making the reference to, like, we're going to have to, that affects your heart. When already talking about the correspondence, just using a colloquial thing that we say anyway. This is in what it is to be human. And I don't know if this is supposed to be saying that reality is just leaking through, or that's actually the slang in heaven, and that is somehow we're just picking it up, like trends make their way across the world from whatever part of it originates something cool. I don't know. But this is something that we know on some level. That's why it's second nature for us to talk about functions of the body and functions of the mind in the same way. It's not just that we feel like, oh, the mind is in the brain, and so you just, that's sort of like you have a good pineal gland, you have a good cortical hemisphere thing. We say, that came from your heart, even though we don't know. There may be some neurons in there, but you say somebody has a good nose. I don't know if anyone said that, but there's no brain in there. So Swedenborg is saying that's because guess what? You, even though it may seem like your life is chaos and things are no good, you actually are aware. That same awareness that would let you use those kind of terminologies is there is this part of you that does understand that there is this huge community. The very thing that you are, am I anything? There is this grand person that that is calling you to be a part of it. And that in there's a place for everyone, and that everyone can contribute in a way that improves the whole. These are all little communities or little people. Look at this sort of spiritual chicken pox. But these are all the different ways you can be a part of the whole. Because you think about what the liver does, what the heart does, what everything does, is it makes it better for everything else. The better the liver is functioning, the better life is for everything else in the whole body. The better the heart is functioning, the better it is for everything else in the whole body, and everything is trying to make sure everything else in the whole body feels good, and the more that cells are in each organ, the better life is for everyone. That's how it is with heaven. And so you are going to go there and be just happy wherever you are, and we're all going to be contributing. We're going to be on the same team. That's the point of it. Good? That's the news from heaven. Hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments. Does that idea do anything for you? Like and subscribe. And just, hold your head high, because your head's talking to heaven right now. Okay, see ya.